Good news, everybody, around the fourth stimulus check. The Senate has just approved a temporary debt increase of around $480 billion. So in this video, I'll be going over the most important stimulus check information that I want you to know. So welcome back to the channel, everybody, and hope all of you guys are having a great day.
The debt ceiling so that we don't have to deal with this in the future and can focus on real crises?
Yes, I would, because I believe when Congress legislates expenditures and puts in place tax policy that determines taxes, those are the crucial decisions Congress is making.
You need to raise the debt ceiling, but what's interesting to me is here's the Secretary of Treasury that has a credit card that's maxed out. Instead of finding a way to pay the credit card off, all they think should do is you shouldn't limit how much I can spend. That is what's put us in this problem. That is what has increased inflation that we haven't seen in decades. That is why we've got one of the worst jobless numbers that we've had in quite some time. This Biden plan is putting America on the wrong path. And so we have to come back in session to vote on the debt ceiling, to increase the amount, but this will not give the Democrats enough money to
Democrats. That we should reduce the costs facing most working families. The cost of health care, the cost of child care, the cost of things like paid family leave and pre-K, and come together around a package that is fully paid for. We're going to reverse some of the tax giveaways from 2017 to big companies that are paying nothing in taxes to the wealthiest Americans so that we can give a middle-class tax cut and reduce the costs that are weighing on everyday Americans. But that's a package we can all agree on. And I think the ultimate price will be around $2 trillion. But it's the policies that really matter. And as a caucus, we agree.
Basically has to pay an extra utility bill or pay as if they're going to the grocery store additional time each month. And inflation is on track to be the highest in 40 years. Mm-hmm. So the more Americans learn about this tax and spend bill, from the giveaway to the wealthy, to the hammering of small businesses, driving jobs overseas, and all those higher prices landing on working families, the less popular every day it becomes.
As you well know, passing something in the House, it's about the math, and Democrats have a single-digit majority. Do they find a way to get this massive spending and tax package done?
I think there is a very good chance that the tax and spending bill will collapse. One, because the American public is starting to see what's in it. And two, moderate Democrats really do understand they're on their own. They won't be coming back. And no one from the president, Speaker Pelosi, or their progressive colleagues really care about them. Secondly, I think by the end of the year, there will be some time.
In this country, you are doing phenomenally well. People trying to live on $12,000 a year are not doing very well. You are going to have to pay more in Social Security taxes so that all of our seniors can live in dignity.
Where does this land on your priority list going to Washington?
I have been a fierce advocate for Social Security, for extending the life of Social Security, for introducing legislation which lifts the cap on taxable income for a very long time. You're talking to the guy who founded the Defending Social Security Caucus, who is also involved in the understanding that the pharmaceutical industry today is ripping off.
So the Senate voted in favor of legislation that will temporarily raise the United States' $28.4 trillion debt ceiling and then prevent a national default later this month. Now, the package was approved thanks to a 61-38 bipartisan decision to waive the filibuster, followed by a 50-48 party line vote from the Democrats. Now, if the bill passes the House of Representatives, the debt ceiling will be temporarily raised by $480 billion until December 3rd. So America has been expecting to surpass that ceiling on October 18th, which would have unimaginable consequences for the US as it continues its economic recovery. The passage of a temporary debt ceiling increase can only be a good thing for the economy. But how will it affect working Americans? Everybody, early this week, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that the US economy could slip into recession if the nation was allowed to default on its commitments. She told in an interview with CNBC that it would be catastrophic to not pay the government bills, for us to be in a position where we lack the resources to pay the government's bills. I fully expect it would cause a recession as well. So with the Treasury Department to flag the October 18th deadline as the point at which the United States would be unable to cover its debts, and the Treasury was already using emergency measures to ensure that the country was able to avoid a default. And that's something that would have had a hugely damaging impact on the economic recovery. Hitting the debt ceiling could have crippled the spending of the federal government and programs, as well as essential services. The New York Times reports that 65 million Americans who currently receive Social Security benefits could see their payments delayed. Now, the federally funded Medicare and Medicaid programs would also suffer in delays in funding, which will prevent some patients from getting the treatment that they require if allowed to continue for weeks. Folks also know that the expanded child tax credit would likely also have suffered from a debt default, leaving around 35 million families without the payments until the issue was resolved. So the avoidance of an unprecedented debt default is undoubtedly a positive outcome for American people. But the ongoing issue will almost certainly affect the running government in the coming 8 weeks. The legislation only provides a temporary extension, meaning that a fiercely partisan Congress will have an additional priority to fit alongside President Biden's Build Back Better agenda, and the passage of the 12 federal spending bills required to keep the government running. Biden Democratic leaders in Congress will have their work cut out to keep the party together through a very precarious period, and there is the chance that some elements of Biden's legislative agenda may get sidelined to ensure that a more long-term solution to the debt ceiling crisis can be agreed upon. So if you received a letter from the IRS in the mail regarding a math error in relation to your 2020 tax returns, you might owe more money on your next return. The letters notified tax filers about incorrect information regarding stimulus check amounts and were sent out beginning in the summer. Letters were sent out to the people who claimed a recovery rebate credit on their 2020 tax returns. The credit allowed people who didn't get their first or second stimulus checks to claim them on their returns and receive them as part of a tax refund according to the IRS. This also applies to those who did not receive the full amount in their stimulus checks. The IRS had to correct about 9 million math errors on returns this year, about 7.4 million of which were related to the first 2 stimulus checks. Now also, the IRS sent out about 5 million incorrect math error letters which omitted the 60-day time period by which tax filers were able to correct whatever mistakes were made. Due to the failure to notify some 5 million recipients of the time frame, the IRS is allowing an additional 60 days from the time they got their second notice for corrections. Everybody, I want to know your thoughts. Everybody, tell me what you think about the fourth stimulus check and President Biden. Is he doing all that it takes to send out the fourth stimulus check, or do you believe that he is holding back our stimulus payments from being sent out? Tell me your thoughts on President Biden, everybody, and the Democrats. Can they get the job done and send out the fourth stimulus payment? Tell me what you think, everybody, in the comments below. So we have a lot of information surrounding the fourth stimulus check in this video. So be sure to stay until the end of this video to find out more information surrounding the fourth stimulus payment. Now here's what President Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer are saying about the fourth stimulus check.